Welcome back, everyone. New School Sensei. I'm your host, Lance Douglas. We have Ken Douglas as well, and we got Jeremy Maitland back in the studio. I should say the Riverside studio. Today, we're running through BJJ belt promotions. So, what do we do, for deciding whether our student is ready to go from white to blue, blue to purple, and so on and so on? So, it's a good topic. It's something Ken and I were always keen to learn different perspectives. So maybe Jez, just quickly run through, just kind of loosely, how you would decide someone's ready. Say, let's start from white belt to blue belt.
Okay, so white to blue. Um, I'm always a big believer in time on mats, number one. So I don't, as far as like time on mats is, so if you're training 7 sessions a week, you're going to progress a lot faster than someone that's doing it 2 sessions a week. Um, there's also level of ability attributes. Some people are just naturally gifted. I generally time frame a white belt. Um, I kind of like the 18 months to 2 years on a white belt. And from there on, I like a year to 2 years on each belt after that. So what I mean by that is I think you need to have, no matter how talented you are, in particular in white belt, I find white belts very important to not only just be gifted. I think you need to be able to understand what's going on. You need to have strategy. You need to, and strategy could just be, hey, look, I want to have a goal to get to, like a position and stuff like that. I need to have diversity in my game. I need to be able to work off my back, work on top position, and basically have a sequence from each of like the main positions in BJJ, and basically also a hunger for it as well. I mean, I'm probably more of an emotional and a maturity based on gradings rather than just for adults in particular, because I haven't graded kids for a long time. I would treat kids very differently as far as grading. I think a syllabus and a task list for them to accomplish is different. But as far as adults, it's an ability, maturity, intelligence, and yeah, so that's what I'd be basing on. So white to blue, I would say 18 to 24 months. At minimum 18 months on a white belt. Um,
And stripes and stuff, Jez,
yep,
on
100%.
on
Yeah,
the white.
I do the technically five stripe system. You fifth stripe your belt. Definitely, and I just use that more as a gauge on where I find their abilities at. And look, sometimes, man, as a coach, we've got lots of, as you guys know, lots of students. Sometimes the downfall to my style is you can sometimes neglect and forget, like, because this person's really quiet. It's like, oh, I haven't put a stripe on them. You know what I mean? And but it's a good way of kind of gauging their abilities. So yeah. How about yourselves?
Yeah, I'll say a story actually before we go on our system. We had one guy before he joined. Well, he didn't join, but before he joined, he was demanding that we would give him a blue belt after 1 year. So it was so odd. Like, we're chatting to him. He's saying, "How long does it take to get a blue belt?" I was like, "Oh, I can take, 2 years." We got some people take 6, 7 years. It just all depends. And then he's like, "Okay, I want to get in 1 year. What can we do?" I was like, I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because this guy, he's 45. He's got injuries. He's got kids. I was just trying to be realistic. Like, this guy probably ain't gonna train 2 times a day and probably get on the hormone replacement to get that blue belt. So yeah, we had you remember that. We won't say any names, but Ken, you remember that fella, yeah? Just a bit of a different unit.
It's always weird when someone walks in the door and starts talking about belts. It's
I
just
think
it's
it's
just not the thing to do.
Yeah, because with our club, like, he was treating it like a transaction, but for us, it's more about the relationship. Like,
Hmm.
as soon as someone starts making, oh, the sun's coming at me. As soon as someone makes demands, like, my mind's already like, okay, you can go somewhere else. Because to be honest, it's kind of like relationship first,
Yeah.
and then everything will come afterwards. So I'm sure you're the same, Jez.
Absolutely. I think you do it with your actions, not your words. Like that's a big, big thing. I think even even guys that have come from outside of the gym, I still want them to do a tenure of 6 months at least. Like even if they've got all the experience. Great example of like kind of that is Nick Mann. You guys have done some cross training with Nick Mann. Nick Mann was a blue belt for like over a decade. Because and again, for him it was tenure, right? Like I think a lot of the issues with as far as grading was more to do with the fact that he didn't have the tenure in places, and he doesn't complain about it. Honestly, he's never it's never been a thing for him. But we finally put it.
Man, he was there when I started as a white belt, and he was a 4-stripe blue belt. That's wild.
That's right. He's
He
a
was a
menace.
4-stripe blue
Yeah,
belt when I started.
yeah. But even like with Nick, like when he joined, because we've been friends for a long time, obviously. Like you said, you guys when you guys started, I think maybe I was on my way to becoming a purple belt when I had met him, and he was a blue belt at the time. So he's always been a blue belt, but even when he joined the gym, he had to do a tenure of like 6 months, and he was happy with that. And he was just, I think he found the place that he wanted to eventually land. And some people need to travel. You know what I mean? You need to travel and see what you like, the place to call home, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? And I was very lucky. AET. Um, I landed there, and that's my spot. And then, of course, I've branched out to teach at other places and spread the word, so to speak. And and now I'm at what's it called? At Resilience, which is fantastic. And and then full circle, Nick, man, we through the grapevine came back, joined, and he's a purple belt now. So I think tenure is important, and that situation you were describing straight away, red flags, like number one, your aspirations are, to blue belt. And it's like, okay, well, this is a 2-year project at most. Like, yeah, like at most, and then you're gone because you're not understanding that this is a journey and like your progression is different. Yeah, that's kind of like, and you know what? If that's your goal, awesome. But like, yeah, I think you kind of demanding about. I've had people demand belts from me before, and immediately, yeah, you're doing an extra 6 months. Like, you're doing an extra 6 months until you can grow out of that, and that's where I come back to maturity. And it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you've come into jiu-jitsu at 40, you've come into jiu-jitsu at 12. I believe you, and any walk of life, I think you need to mature. I think you have grappling maturity, which I think I brought up in one of the previous podcasts that I did with you guys. Grappling maturity is important. I think when you're a white belt, you're young, full of beans, you're a spazzy, you know what I mean? And like eventually, yeah, but like that's like kindergarten, right? Like kindergarten preppy. And then eventually you start getting like blue belts kind of like like I'm only using this as an example, but like you're kind of a little bit older. You're like that grade 5, grade 6, and then purple belt, you're in high school, and brown belt, you're like kind of in, you know what I mean, in uni. And then by the time you get to your black belt, like as far as like mentality and maturity, you know what I mean? Like obviously it's a much shorter journey. Well, not really. I mean, I've been doing this for like 18, 19 years, but that you have to grow in jiu-jitsu. And I shouldn't critique because everyone's different. But there are some gyms it takes 4 years to get a blue belt, and I think that's way too long. I've seen some gyms like, hey, you do this tick and flick, you'll get it in 3 months, and it's like, yeah, it's like there's a fine balance. I kind of fall somewhere in the middle, but I also base it on the individual's journey of their tenure. But I still think the white belt you need to have at least 18 months to 2 years before you start grading someone. Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's backtrack. So yeah, for us, so for our white belts, we're heavily influenced by the Ibero brothers, so their BJJ University, their syllabus, and John Danaher.
Mm-hmm.
So at their white belt stage, they focus on pin escapes and submission escapes.
Hmm.
So for our white belts, we need them to be able to escape pins and escape submissions. And then, because also we're heavily influenced by, Greg Sauter's ecological approach.
Hmm.
The way we've done the stripes, it's more skill based. So say for white belt, the first stripe, you got to know how to play the game. So if I say, okay, sweep or submit, then you're out, back to the line. If I say something like that, you have to understand what it means. Or if I say you got to get chest to chest, chest to back. So to get the first stripe, really, it should only take you about a month, 2 months, really.
Yeah.
Then our next stripe, we go through, so you need to know the defensive postures. So essentially elbows in, elbows to knees, that type of thing. Third stripe is grip fighting, because our stripes and belts are based on the gi, so you have to be able to, fight grips. Then we got the next stripe, pin escapes. Then after that, to get the belt, submission escapes. So it seems to be working, but also sometimes doesn't work. Say if like some of the students, once they get to blue belt, then we focus on the guard.
Mm-hmm.
So we are delaying their guard, but we
Mm.
kind of feel as a white belt, you're better served to be able to escape. Well, what are your thoughts on that, Jez?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say ecological. Yeah, it's very formal. Your approach is actually quite detailed, more detailed than mine. Maybe I'm ecological. Who knows? um, no, I think that's great. I think that's a really good measuring stick for yourselves. I think you need to also match your personalities too. Like I think you both are very analytical, very, very well spoken. You're into the nitty gritty details. As I've always described myself, I'm like a finger painter. You know what I mean? Like I'm like in the mess. Like I said, a lot of my kind of I like the way you do it, but I also think it has to reflect your personality as coaches. And I think you guys do a fantastic job. You obviously got an awesome crew. I've got a lot of love and respect for your guys and yourselves. I just think, yeah, I think it needs to think. I think I'm a bit more of a, I guess I'm kind of a little bit, I don't know if ecological is the right thing, but I kind of want to see how far you can understand what you're doing. So for me, the first stripe is very similar to you guys. Basically, this person's made a commitment. They've been here for about a month or two. They're pretty keen. They've really, they're really into it. Like, and you can see people that sometimes just come because they just, essentially, it's like, I just want to spar. You know what I mean? They don't want to do technique and stuff like that. And it's like, that's fine. And I'm happy to give them a stripe too, because, at the end of the day, we're there to have fun. We're there to be playful. Like, I mean, we're doing this for enjoyment, right? But, we're breaking ourselves for it. I think that second stripe is like, okay, we're starting to develop what my understanding of how to finish this. You know what I mean? So like, it could be as simple as someone that's really good at like understanding, like, oh, I want to get past this guard and key lock. And I understand, and you could see that they understand it, not just like they're doing it with some purpose, if that makes sense, purposeful rolling. I go for three, establish a top or bottom game if they're more inclined one way or the other, and understand how to get. Again, I've said this a million times on your podcast, but that Google Maps theory, like understand the different routes to like my goal. You know what I mean? And I think at a third stripe, whilst making a lot of mistakes and stumbling a lot, they're still like finding the multiple paths to that goal. And I like to think at a fourth stripe, you pretty much have your finishing move, your special move. You know what I mean? Like a video game, like that signature move. And like, cool. And now I've got multiple and find multiple ways to it. And for me in that fifth stripe, like, you are pretty much starting to develop a second style of game, if that makes sense. So I'm only using this as an example. You might be going from a key lock as a key lock attack to an armbar attack, for example. Do you know what I mean? So now we have two avenues at that point. I also think, yeah, I think you need to show some maturity as well. And I think there are really, I'm only going to use this as an example. I have someone that was we talked about it on the previous podcast, someone that was like super, super talented that, and he's very, very gifted. He's Ilias Khan from my gym. Now, I could have easily, just based on attributes and just natural talent, I could have easily have put he was only in the gym for about 10, 11 months, and I could have put a blue belt on him and like he would have held his own. But I didn't, because as talented as what he was and just naturally gifted, he was making a lot of judgment mistakes that he got away with just pure attributes. Now, when I say pure attributes, it's not pure power. He moves smooth. He does all these amazingly gifted things, but he was still very young at heart. So sometimes you get some really talented people, but like the decision making wasn't up to scratch. And I said that to him, and then he fought in the quintet. And look, I won't name names because I don't want to disrespect, but he tapped out a brown belt with an armbar. and he's only been doing less than 18 months of jiu-jitsu. Like, you guys know and that is not to take anything away from the brown belt. He's phenomenal. And like I said, but the talent in this kid and like his maturity, and that's what I'm talking about. There's a maturity of like, and this guy's limits are like way higher than myself. You know what I mean? Like, he gives me a hard time, and he's not rough. It's not just pure power. It's like, no, there's a real instinct here, but the maturity wasn't there yet, which is why I held him off on his blue belt. And, it's very important to understand, like, I use the word maturity a lot because you need to have a certain level of maturity and understanding to be able to play the game. You know what I mean? Obviously, you play it more and more. Your strategies change. You approach it differently. You also got to read people as well. If you don't have the ability to read people, well, then no, you don't have enough maturity. So, super, super talented. And, and he's a really, really sweet kid, and he's still young. He's like, I think he's just turned 20 or 21. It's like, it's insane. So yeah, I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, sounds like a weapon.
Yeah.
Lance, it'd be good if you could just rattle off now your sort of structure from blue to purple and then even purple to brown.
Yeah, so I've been following the BJJ University, so Salo Ribeiro. So white belt is positional and pin escapes. Blue belt is guard. So first stripe for our blue belt is you gotta know how to pull guard. If you can't
Hmm.
pull guard, you can't play guard. So
Hmm.
those things pull guard. And then the next stripe's taken off Greg Souders. So he talks about in guard, first things first, you got to get connection. So can you actually
Hmm.
get your group? Second thing is, can you manage and maintain the distance? So if you want to play, long range spider guard, or do you want to get middle range, maybe De La Riva, or do you want to get close, close guard or half guard? So can you play in the ranges?
Mm.
Uh, One Souders talks about, and for us we use, so destabilization. So can you off balance? And then the last one to get the purple belt is wrestling up. So from your
Mm.
guard, transitioning to standing. And then,
That's cool.
yes, purple belt, we go, yeah. So obviously, we've just on guard. So purple is all about passing. And again, we're using a lot of concepts.
Mm.
So first one for purple belt is, can they get to a checkpoint? Because we do find a lot of students, they pass, but they try and go the whole way. When it's a lot easier, hit a checkpoint, maybe get to headquarters, maybe, pit stop in half guard, as we all know. And then the next stripes are to do with, loose passing, pressure passing, submission passing. And then to get the brown belt, you got to tie it all together.
Yeah.
So
Agree.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of how we do
that's
it.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, what are your thoughts, Ken? I never actually asked Ken about it. I was like, because Ken normally just does no gi. So I just
Yeah.
made it by myself. But what do you reckon, Ken?
Well, I guess a bit of background for me is pretty much when COVID started, I took the gi off. We got that Lachlan Giles 50-50 set. Me and Lance just ran through that. And I'm only now, after 16 years, got my black belt. I'm like, it took me 16 years to get this black belt. I might as well put it on. So I'm actually going back to the gi, which is why I thought this was a really cool potty for me. Because if we're going to start grading people, striping people, for me to sort of learn and understand how Lance is doing it. So I think the way we're doing it for purple to brown, because we have a few purple belts that we want to get to brown belt level. It definitely gives the coach, someone like me, a clear pathway. The submission style passing is interesting because that's something that I don't really do. So that's pretty interesting. That's something new for me. So I'll probably have to really investigate that, try that myself, you know, before I teach the other guys. Because that's almost like a riskier style of pass. Because just thinking off the cuff, a submission style pass would be maybe if someone's playing sit up guard and you sort of jump for the Kimura. They got that posted arm. Maybe you're going for a guillotine pass sort of thing. Maybe sitting in half guard. You're trying to attack the arms, all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty cool. So that's something that sort of stuck out for me, Lance.
Yeah, it's, I guess, a different avenue, because maybe you've tried to loose pass this guy, not going to work. Pressure passing ain't working it, but he keeps sticking that head up. Okay, stuff him. We're going to go guillotine. He's going to defend, and as he defends, I'll get the pin on him.
Mm.
So, or maybe you can't get past the guard. Maybe you're going to step in for a leg lock as he defends, and I'm going to come up and take the back. So it's
Mm.
just a bit of variety.
It makes a lot of sense because if I look back in my journey, I started off with the guard. I was a young kid, flexible, all that sort of stuff. So I played a lot of guard. And then as I got older, I started passing, and now I'm really loving just passing guard. And actually now at black belt, I'm actually going back to the guard. I feel like now at black belt, playing closed guard is a lot easier. Like playing closed guard at white belt was really hard. I couldn't get nothing going because, if you're a white belt, you're learning the fundamentals, which is closed guard, but everyone you're versing is better than you. So it's really hard to get those closed guard attacks off. But now I'm going back to playing closed guard, bottom half guard, actually playing more guard now black belt, and it's a lot easier. I can tell you that much.
Right. So, Jez, what are you looking for from blue to purple and then purple to brown?
And see, this is like again, like I'm super like I like what that you're kind of doing. And I said, look, I'd have to say like as far as like my language, I'm probably not as just on the language of like say a Greg or something like that. It's very language based. It's probably a weakness in mine, to be honest. I kind of more of a like a more of a visual person than an audio, like, you know what I mean? Like I teach that way. I use like weird metaphors all the time. Yeah, like I think again, from what you're just like what you're saying is it's obviously evolving your game into separate things. So that passing sort of thing and the pit stop that you were talking about before, it's a really good word. I don't use that word. But I think what it really does come down to is, again, come back to that maturity, intelligence, and being able to recognize the problem that you were describing before. Oh, this guard pass isn't working. I feel like a white or blue belt might just keep trying to power the same pass through, which is because this works for me. This is working. Why would it not work? Right? And in the moment, that's what's going through your head. No, it's going to work. I'm going to keep powering the technique through. Right? I think when you get to that blue to purple, you need to be able to recognize, okay, I need an alternate route. I'm not going to keep driving through the roadblock. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm going to work my way around a detour, and be able to understand that thing. I think I kind of like the more independent thought. I kind of don't. Again, this could be a criticism of myself, but I don't really like to hinder guys that have unorthodox games, so to speak. Got a guy in my gym, Nate, loves donkey guard. Do you know what I mean? He does all that crazy stuff. I know, and you know what? It works. Like,
Reverse close guard?
yeah, that's reverse close glide. He
Oh,
loves
yeah.
it.
I
Yeah,
don't mind
yeah,
reverse
yeah.
close guard. It's good guard.
Yeah. But he's like, I don't like taking away the creativity and the diversity of games. I've got a guy that's a very heavy wrist lock guy from different angles and deep lock down. It looks like Ken's Ken's on
Dude,
another world.
I've got really bad wrists. I don't know if I've told this story on the potty. It was one of my rare sessions in the gi. Like Nanos is like, like we've just done Pan Packs, and you got to put the gi on the week
Mm,
after Pan Packs. You want the stripes or any sort of belt promotion, yeah? So I've
yeah.
gone in there. I versed this blue belt. He's now purple belt at the time, and he's put me in a lasso, and he
Mm.
wrist locked me, and I just verbal tapped. But he wrist locked my wrist. It was heavily taped up. Like wrist was taped up. And I just told him, dude, if you do it again, I'm going to slap you. I was really angry, man, because this wrist was taped up. I was really relaxed, and he snapped this thing on. And I'm pretty sure Lance rolled him. Maybe it was the same class of the week after. He just smashed him. But it's like,
Versus him, I will use. I don't do it on anyone else, but knee on neck, knee on head. Yeah, it is what it's not ideal, but if the guy's willing to break me, then I need to protect myself as well, to be honest. So
You have
yeah,
to let him know.
the thing is for me, especially the wrist locks, I think I've got really bad wrists. And if anyone puts it on, I literally verbally tap, and I'm literally, I can't use my hands that well for the next few weeks. So for me, it's a dirty move.
especially if your wrist is heavily taped up as well.
Yeah, for me, it's almost you slap it on hard. It's almost it's going to turn into a fight. That's how I feel about the wrist lock, especially if my wrists are taped up heavily. Yeah, that's just me, Jez.
I've because I think for me, what I've learned over time is if I do have an injury, I just assume people think I'm trying to be cool if I've got a bandage on it or something. Like I'm trying to look like a Street Fighter character. So I actually verbalize, hey, listen, don't don't grab, my wrist is really injured. So if you could avoid that, that'd be great. And I get gout like in my feet, and like I lose the ability to walk. Very similar to what you're saying. And one of my blue belts, he's a phenomenal leg locker named Odin. Phenomenal leg locker. And he's a blue belt, but he's insanely powerful in his hands. Just a knacker. And this one particular training session, I shouldn't have jumped in, so it is my fault but I'm like, I'll play guard because I don't need to walk to play guard, right? He grabbed my foot, and like, I don't know if you guys understand gout. Like, the pain in gout can mask serious injuries. That's how high level the pain is. Like, he grabbed my foot and he squeezed it, and I yelled like it was agony. And he goes, "Oh, what's wrong?" I go, "That's my gout foot." He goes, "Oh yeah, you told me that." And I'm like, and I've just gone, "Mate." I go, "All right." He goes, "You're gonna mess me up now, aren't you?" I go, "Well, I can't mess you up right now, but I promise I will." But I have to look, like, and to be fair, like, I see, like, and not taking anything away from Ken, the situation. Like, obviously, someone bandaged, you don't grab it. But I think when you're in the moment of a fight, if you've verbalized it to the person, like you make a written, like a verbal contract with them, hey, listen, don't do this, that's fair, right? You made a verbal agreement. It's like doing a boxing match and going, hey, we're going to do a boxing match, and then you throw a head kick at me. Well, we verbalized just before then that you were not going to do that. But my whole thing is like, even after that, you do that after I've spoken to you, I think at that point it's like, well, you've crossed the line because I'm like, I've verbalized. It's hard, man. Like, I get I completely understand the situation. I'm like, my student owner, look, I didn't bash him. Like, he's a sweetheart. He's a young kid. He just didn't think. And it's like, but believe me, in the moment, I'm like, yeah, I want to destroy you. But no, 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 no. Agreed. Like I said, you just can't assume someone's going to use logic in those moments. Because number one, when your fight instincts kick in, and this again comes back to maturity. Now, I think in that scenario who you're talking about, like, it wasn't very mature of them to not be able to recognize the situation. They didn't read the situation. Were they graded too soon? Were they graded based on their ability? Who knows? You know, like, it's and sometimes you do grade people in ability. I think there was a video Big Dan Minister was talking about the level of black belt and things like that, and he had a really interesting take on it that um some people argue that certain people aren't a black belt level as far as skill or ability, but he says everyone has a different journey. And I really stuck out to me. I was a big fan of that. And then he had the Greg Sordo's debate, and I'm like, okay, cool, you've lost, you lost all my respect after that. And not for any other reasons, just the way he approached the debate. And I keep forgetting he's a young man, but he had this really cool take on the black belt. And he goes, look, at the time when he made that video, I'm a purple belt, but I beat black belts. But that doesn't mean that they're not a black belt. It just means their journey's at a different point than what mine is. My potential is way higher. That's why I'm not a black belt yet. So that's again comes back to kind of similar to my topic of like, there's a certain level of maturity and ability, right? So, man, we've got one of my biggest heroes in AET who I love is, Dom from BTB. Now, Dom is like, he's always supporting. He's a good person. He's raised an amazing culture. Dom's older. He's got like 10, 15 black belts under him, different sports, different martial arts and stuff like that. But as far as physical ability, Dom's a bit older. His body's a bit broken, and like, okay, he might struggle with, let's say, a young fit blue belt, right? But he's more of a black belt in my eyes than a lot of people that do have black belts that have high skill that can beat me, because he's got that level of maturity. He's also cultivated that ability to teach. Now, I've mentioned this before to you guys in the past that teaching is a big part of my syllabus, especially to get a brown belt. You have to have that ability to teach. It's very, very important to me. You have to pass on knowledge. Does that make, like, I mean, that's a very important thing. And I think Dom, is one of my heroes, man, because he's still evolving himself at this later stage in life. You know what I mean? And like I said, he's got unlimited black belts, and like you can't base it on skill. You have to base it on the person. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Dom's very high level karate as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
isn't
high
it?
level karate. With with the masters athletes, the way we see it is if you're 50, you're getting assessed based on a masters 5 white belt.
Mhm.
Then if you're going to go for black belt, like, are you competitive versus a masters 5 black belt? So that's the way we see it. If you're 21 and you're athletic, well, you're going to be assessed based on that blue belt division.
Based
So
it on
yeah,
your attributes and limitations, right? And that's same with kids. Like, yeah, and that works in reverse, right? What I was saying before. I got the talented white belt Ilias, right? But his maturity was limited. That's why he didn't get graded. And again, when I say maturity, it's not like he's a sweetheart. He's a gentleman. He's makes sure that everyone's okay. As far as like a human, he is a black belt in my mind. He's a lovely, lovely person, but there is a level of maturity as a grappler or as a fighter that you have to, if we're doing a belt progression martial arts, boxing's different, obviously. Like, you go straight into boxing. They don't do a syllabus, so to speak, as far as like a thing. But I feel like one thing I love about martial arts is the fact that I like the grading system. I think it's great. I think it's a good way to gauge, and it's kind of good for you to kind of recognize where you are at. And if you're not agreeing with where you're at, then have a healthy discussion on it. Okay, there's a big difference between, hey, I want my blue belt now, this date, this time, I've got it written in the calendar, what you guys went through, and I had many conversations with some of my guys where I've had very similar to what I'm saying in the Ilya situation, where the guy goes, hey, coach, can you tell me what I need to do to get to that next level? And that's a different kind of approach. It's like, okay, what aren't I doing? What am I not recognizing in myself? And that shows already for me, that levels you up straight away. That immediately it's like, okay, cool. You've come to me with this kind of independently come to me and ask questions. I had another guy we actually had a conversation about, Alex, who was in a similar boat, who had, I mean, as far as skill, he was a blue, but there was just something missing in his game where he wasn't beating blue belts and stuff like that. And he goes, is there a reason you're not coaching me? Like, is there something? And I said, look, I think as far as skill, you have it. What you don't have is the strategy or the ways to implement it, that pathways that we talked about that's missing in your game. And he had this epiphany and he's like, okay. And 3 months later, leveled up because he just focused on that one thing that was missing from his game. And it's so funny. Often when you have one element missing from your game and you fix that even just slightly, everything else just improves dramatically. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, that white to blue is kind of important. Yeah, it's like, again, roundabout
how
way,
come
you
you
know
asked
me.
you? How come you're not coaching me? It's good. I like
Yeah.
you have a good relationship with your students.
Yeah, I like
You
independent
don't like
thinking, but
they just don't leave.
yeah,
Like they
man.
just see you later. I'll find someone else.
But there's definitely flaws in the way I do it, as I'm sure there's flaws in the way you guys do it, right? You can't tick every single box in every single way. If you go more syllabus-based way, I mean, a lot of people just tick and flick, you know what I mean? And it loses your passion. It's like, I'm just going to do all these tasks, you know what I mean? It's like, cool, do this, and then I'm done. It's like, I kind of like guys having that innovation to innovate, but like also if I do that, sometimes people don't have the confidence to take that leap of faith, so to speak, to do it. And then every now and then I'm the one that has to kind of push that, so it's like, okay, cool. And I can sometimes miss people, and it's just, unfortunately, it's the nature of my style. But like I said, there's pros and cons with everything. I'm pretty happy with, I can work around those flaws, so to speak. You know what I mean? And it works for me. And I said, you guys, like I said, you guys are very intelligent. We've been friends for a long time. We have two very different approaches, but it doesn't mean one's better than the other. It just suits the personality type. I'm quite extroverted. I'm quite, more social style. And you guys are, and not that you guys aren't social, but obviously I've got a big personality, like I've got big Jez, as you guys always said, big Jez, and like you guys are great. And like we've had some really awesome conversations, off camera and stuff like that. We're just different people. But one thing I like about you guys that's always impressed me is that you're very open minded. I mean, you put a lot of different types of people on these podcasts. I don't agree with a lot of people, and I don't dislike them. I like that you guys have diversity. There are opinions that I don't agree, but that's healthy, isn't it? Like, and that just comes back to, again, maturity. I go, no, that's wrong. I do it this way, and this is the only way. And it's like, well, then give me back my blue belt if that's the attitude I'm going to have. Yeah.
Yeah, because we found like having conversations like this, you kind of don't really have them like much anymore these days.
No.
It could be because you're busy at work or with kids, or even like I find sometimes today, if you talk about a controversial topic or if you got a different opinion, the other person will take it, they take it personally. So that's like
Yeah.
part of our philosophy is like, we want to talk to people. I actually like when people got different views and kind of argue with me because then it kind of
Mm.
forces me to think about, why do I have that type of belief too? So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's good having a platform for that too. And then, I think I was talking to you guys. I was listening to your previous, the one that you had posted, the previous podcast, and you guys had very, very different opinions, like almost polar opposite opinions. But there wasn't right or wrong. It's just, again, like I said to you guys, it's got to match your person. I think the biggest indicator of whether you are doing well or not is your gym still running? Like isn't that not a fair statement? Like, if it's still running and you're not losing people, like constantly losing people, I mean, you must be doing something right, or there's something that's clicked in that community. Like, I mean, we come from the West, right? You guys are kind of like west of the city. We've got probably similar cultures like nearby, but like it's very different to like northern suburbs, eastern suburbs. You go southeast, it's very kickboxy. It's a very strong kickboxing culture. You guys have got karate. I mean, Jiu-Jitsu is kind of in a city, which is hilarious, right? Like it's kind of like it also has to play to your demographics, and not just wealth, but like it definitely just plays to your demographics as well, and you've got to find the right fit, like and yeah.
Your coaching style, obviously you're, more intuitive, more social,
Mm,
relationship building. Does that kind of works in well with the Footscray demographic? Because I
yes.
used to live in Footscray. I was there for like, 3, 4, 5 years. Kenny used to live in Footscray too. Um, so I guess, yeah, I guess it would kind of mesh now. You got a lot of hipsters in Footscray, so a
You
lot of
do.
apartments built.
We also got a lot of like, but like I said, I think if you find that you're having a bit of diversity in your gym, it's a good sign that you're at least open-minded. You don't have to agree on everything. I think it's healthy not to agree on everything. If you agree on everything, that's when you get into kind of cult territory. And gym culture is very, very close to that line in cult territory. I kind of feel like not so much Greg, but I feel like a little bit of the ecological stuff can be a little bit culty, especially some of the language that's used by a lot of people. It's like words have kind of flavor and it feels good to say. And like it can be very dangerous down the line when you fall into that trap. That happens across all gyms. I'm only using, the ecological as an example, but there's definitely, I mean, you guys grew up in karate culture. I mean, it can be very culty, very, very culty.
You have
And
no idea.
yeah,
No
uh,
idea.
yeah, yeah, man. Cobra Kai is based on
Yeah,
a real thing, right?
very similar to Cobra Kai. Very, very similar.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool. Like, I try to, and look, and when I say that, I still have some, because it is a gym and a culture thing, you have those attributes. I definitely have some of that I try to control as much as I can, but you still have that, you have to be aware of that. And roundabout way, people use the belt grading system as a tool, as a weapon, where I don't like that. I like to base it off your independent ability of where you're at, and your skill levels. So roundabout way, as I always do with you guys, like the long way, the long route. I've really got to use Google Maps because I'm taking the worst possible way to where I need to go. But I think you just need to be open-minded, and I think you need to base it off what you think is right and really judge it off the result. If you have students, you have numbers and things are clearly working, the culture's very happy, you're not getting a lot of complaints, like obviously that's what's working for you. And you have to cater to the style that suits you. Yeah, so to speak.
I like it, Jez. I think we might have to wrap this one up. Lance, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, it's good. Good podcast always. It's always good to. We got different approaches, but I can see we're similar in a lot of ways, and it's good. I like it.
I
Boom.
think it's important that if we both have we bring a different piece of the pie, piece of the puzzle. And then rather than say, no, my piece is right, we connect it. Like, man, that's when you're going to create monster talented grapplers and, just good people, that's very important.
Well, we send our top talent to HQ, and then Ninos, let's go. Ninos can send them out to the world.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that. If you want to hear more, send us a message. If you want any tips or anything, message Jeremy. More than happy to help everyone out. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one. Oos.
Thanks again, guys. See ya.